irrespective of the indictment, I want the American people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. And then on that day, President Trump asked me to put him over the Constitution. But I chose the Constitution, and I always will.
So you've just admitted that the disgraced former president did actually ask you to overturn the election, and you said no. So you're basically bringing testimony to the American public, and you're making it absolutely clear that you were asked to overturn the election, and you said no. Carry on.
I really do believe that anyone who puts themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States.
Okay, so I know you're talking in code, in this kind of word salad, and that's fine. That's what you do. You talk like you're announcing a movie trailer, but, you know, I'll do my best to decipher. You're now saying that nobody who attempts to overturn the election, put themselves above the Constitution, should never be president of the United States. So you're now finally saying, because you never say anything about anything, you just say a whole bunch of words in a very earnest way, you're now saying that Donald Trump should not be the president of the United States ever again. You're finally saying that. I mean, we're working it out, but you're finally saying that.
And anyone who asks someone else to put themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States again.
Okay, and by anyone, you mean Donald Trump again? Okay, this is good. I'm getting this now. And he asked you, so when you say that anyone who asks anyone, that means you, that you shouldn't try and put him over the Constitution, shouldn't be the President of the United States. Okay, I think I've got it. Thanks, Mike.
I've been very forthright about this issue, and I'll continue to be.
Well, you haven't been forthright about this issue. You just dance around the subject. You haven't actually come out directly and said anything about anything. You just provide a kind of commentary that is, just makes no sense to anybody. And you think that maybe you think that God forgives you if you go on television and make these kind of weird statements that we have to decipher, like through code. Just come out and say it. Say that Trump is a bad guy. You don't like Trump. Trump doesn't like you. He asked you to overturn the election and you said no, and the guy should go to prison. Just say it. It's really easy.
With regard to the substance of the indictment, I've been very clear. I had hoped it wouldn't come to this.
So hang on a second. You hoped it wouldn't come to this, but you just said a minute ago that no person who tries to put themselves ahead of the Constitution should be the President of the United States. You just said that. So now why are you saying that there shouldn't be a legal case about it? I mean, which side of history do you want to be on? This episode of The Weekend Show is brought to you by Manuka Honey. Now, when I say the word honey, you might be thinking about the stuff that comes in those plastic bear-shaped bottles at the supermarket. Well, this is nothing like that. Manuka makes Manuka honey, a super honey that comes from New Zealand, where the bees only feed on the nectar of the Manuka tea tree, making something that is rich, herbaceous and complex with a creamier texture that's unlike anything you've ever tried before. You can use it just like the honey that you're used to, but Manuka honey is super because it also contains unique antioxidants and prebiotics, as well as a natural antibacterial compound called MGO that only comes from the nectar of this tea tree. These nutrients support optimal immune and digestive health, so it's win-win. You can continue to use honey in all of the ways you love, and you can enjoy all of the health benefits of MGO as well. Manuka sent me a jar and squeeze bottle of their 850 Plus MGO Manuka honey, their best-selling product. The 850 Plus honey has this creamy caramel texture that melts in your mouth, and it's unlike anything I've ever tried. I can grab a spoonful out of a jar and put it in my favorite beverage or squeeze some honey out on some toast or oatmeal. It's delicious. Each morning I start my day with a spoonful of the Manuka honey, and it's the perfect amount of sweetness with the perfect consistency. If you head to manuka.com/weekend or use code WEEKEND, you'll automatically get an extra free pack of the 850 Plus honey sticks with your order, a $15 value. Now, I love the jar and squeeze bottle, but the extra pack of compostable honey sticks is also perfect for whenever you're on the go. You can bring them with you when you're traveling, if you need a quick snack or running errands, and they're the perfect energy boost if you're out for a run or at the gym. So go to Manukora, MANUKORA.com/weekend or use code WEEKEND to get a free pack of compostable honey sticks with your order. You haven't tasted or seen honey like this before, so indulge and try some honey with superpowers from MeidasTouch.
I had hoped that this issue and the judgment of the president's actions that day would be left to the American people.
Oh, I see. So instead of this going to court, you actually just wanted people to vote Donald Trump out, and therefore he wouldn't be a consideration. But you're missing the whole thing about Donald Trump being a populist, Donald Trump being an autocrat, people worshipping him like a dictator, there being a kind of cult and a whole kind of national mental health crisis, this kind of Trump contagion where people go to rallies and they buy hats and flags and badges. You're kind of missing that section. I thought you were an expert on American history.
But now it's been brought in a criminal indictment, and I can't assess whether or not the government has the evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt what they assert in the indictment.
You can't presume to know whether or not there's enough evidence to bring about this indictment. You just said that nobody who puts themselves ahead of the Constitution should be the President of the United States. You just said that like a few seconds ago, like I was here, I was listening to it. And now you're saying that the indictment, you can't presume whether... I mean, you've clearly read the indictment. You've clearly read the fact that in these 47 pages, there is enough evidence, and your name, of course, is mentioned 100 times, Mr. Pence, in this indictment, which is clearly why you're suddenly ramping things up and allowing people like me to decipher the code of your weird linguistics. Is that you are nervous. You are a coward and you are nervous because you are put in the room where it happens. You were right there. You did your constitutional duty, but you never came out and blew the whistle on Donald Trump when you should have done. You knew that he was planning a coup and you never came out on television, as you should have done from the office of the vice president, and said, I am concerned about the future of American democracy. Our president is trying to overturn the election, and it should not be allowed to happen. You didn't. You kept quiet, you sought advice privately, and then privately you just said, okay, I have to just do my constitutional duty. You're not a hero. You're a coward.
For my part, I want people to know that I had no right to overturn the election, and that what the president maintained that day, and frankly has said over and over again over the last 2.5 years, is completely false. And it's contrary to what our Constitution and the laws of this country provide.
Well, yeah, he's been saying it for 2.5 years. In fact, he actually said it leading up to the election. He said that if he didn't win the election, then it will be fraudulent. Now, you could have come out then and said something. So, your position is very weak right now. And I can understand why you are trying to kind of raise your game and take on a more of a kind of strongman attitude. But I just think it's too little too late. We need VPs who are up to the task of ensuring that their president is up to the job. And the moment that you knew that he was either incapable or insane, it was your job to say something. And you didn't.
I'm a student of American history. And the first time I heard in early December somebody suggest that as vice president I might be able to decide which votes to reject and which to accept, I knew that it was false. Our founders had just won a war against a king. And the last thing they would have done was vest unilateral authority in any one person to decide who would be the next president.
Oh, so you are a student of American history. Well, probably best go back to school.
Sadly, the president was surrounded by a group of crackpot lawyers that kept telling him what his itching ears wanted to hear. And while I made my case to him of what I understood my oath of the Constitution to require, the president ultimately continued to demand that I choose him over the Constitution.
I'm Anthony Davis. You can hear me every day on the 5 Minute News podcast, on Wednesday on MAGA Uncovered, and on Sundays hosting The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.